all patriots. It's time for the Signal 50 podcast, where we talk about the hard truth about today's current events.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Signal 50 podcast with your hosts, Alpha and Bravo, for it's Wednesday, June 16th. Can you believe it's June 16th already, Bravo?
It's June 16th, and I had to pay my quarterly taxes. Yay.
Oh, so much fun. Well, it's June 16th. Time is just flying by, and there's an awful lot of things to talk about this evening. You know, you've got Biden overseas in Geneva. You've got all sorts of activity going on around the United States. You've got it's a madhouse out there. But you know, we really want to get into, you know, we're just a couple of guys who like to talk about the current events, just two regular dudes. We're just allowing you to listen to the conversations that we have between us two. And that's kind of like where we are. And we find some stories that are interesting, and you're going to find a lot of commonality in a lot of things. Things are developing and changing, and we talked about a lot of these things in previous episodes of the program. And we really thank you for your time and coming along with us on this journey that we're on. You know, we really want to talk about the stories that people aren't talking about necessarily, or that they really aren't truly paying attention to, that are really going to have an impact on everyday people, right? Bravo?
Not only that, hello, everyone. We are the two American patriots that love to talk about current events. And this producer almost got fired because I sound like I was coming from a wind tunnel last time. I found out it was a setting on the StreamYard that is great, but little rookie mistake. So it got added to the checklist. I apologize for the sound quality last time. I think I have it fixed. How's it sound all right to you there, bro?
Yeah, you sound a lot better. I was trying to run past that so you didn't have an opportunity to, you know, self-flagellate at making a small error. I mean, we're not professionals here. We don't have a producer. And Bravo, we'll keep you on the payroll, and I'll even give you a raise. Half of nothing is still nothing.
So, all right.
Nothing.
Anyway,
nothing. All right. So we're going to move along. Like I said, we like to talk about the stories that are impacting people. I mean, really impacting people.
And stories that you and I would talk about, saying to each other, why aren't they talking about this? Why are we? And we're talking about it. So we're sharing our thoughts on our opinions with you of these stories that we have found that just make my head shake and butt back and forth and say, what are they thinking? They're not talking about this. So we're going to let you think about it and talk about it. And we want to hear from you. Please email us, info@signal50.com, info@signal50.com. You can also, if you're joining us with a live stream, please jump in on the comments. Let us know. If you could share this video, like the video. And when you catch it on Rumble, give us a couple of rumbles. It really does help get the word out. So we appreciate you spending some time with us.
It does. And what I'll say, you know, a little bit here, we've grown significantly, right? Our listenership has grown tremendously. I think people are really looking for content, and I'm glad that people are enjoying what we're putting out. I'm getting some emails and some personal stuff. A lot of people that I know are listening. That's great. Our podcast is doing pretty well as far as downloads go. So thank you very, very much. There's some things that are going to be coming up that we'll get into here in a little while. We're going to take on some larger affiliates and to take part in some co-branding and co-marketing coming up soon. Details to be announced. But anyhow.
And we haven't forgotten about that big interview we're trying to get. It's just the person that's supposed to come on is super busy, and I understand. You know, but
she just recently got engaged, so she's out running around doing her thing, which is great. Good for her.
Well, we are thinking about bringing on some other interesting people that have some insight that we want to share with you also. So all things to look forward to here on the Signal 50 podcast.
That's right. So, you know, like one of the things that I've really been trying to drive a message home on, and not a lot of people are paying much attention to it, is the fact that the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns and the closing of businesses and the restrictions we always knew there was going to be an impact. And when are you going to pay the bill, right? When is the check due? The check is due. Okay. There, something that nobody's talking about, one of the largest, most populous county, aside from Baltimore County in Maryland, where I happen to reside in the state of Maryland somewhere. Montgomery County is the largest county, or the most populous or most densely populated county in the state of Maryland. It's where Bethesda is and Silver Spring, and you've got Germantown, Gaithersburg. You've got big towns here, big, large numbers of people here. Nobody is talking about the real human toll that the COVID pandemic, the draconian lockdowns, and all of the measures that everybody thought would be effective in slowing down a virus are going to take on a very personal level.
Can you imagine? I mean, for you and I'm not sure I would ever not pay my mortgage or not pay and just because I want to make sure I don't get behind. But like you mentioned earlier, Alpha, everything comes due. The piper needs to be paid. And if you just ignore your payments, they're not going to go away. And it's kind of, it seems people that are having a tough time with it, I guess, they're going to have to, I don't know. I can't imagine.
I mean, well, what do you do? What do you do when you go to work every day and all of a sudden the business that you rely on to generate revenue, say you're a waiter or a waitress in the service industry, and you make, you're not making six figures for sure, or maybe you are. And all of a sudden, one day, some bureaucrat comes along and says, you can't work anymore because of a virus. And the business you're working for, your job just goes away. Your job goes away. And, say there's two members of a household that participate in kind of the same industry. You're making it, you're able to pay your bills, you're doing fine. And then all of a sudden, the music stops. Okay. And the state puts a moratorium, and the federal government and the CDC, we talked about it in the last program. They put a moratorium on evictions for reasons. Okay. That moratorium is up. And I'm here to tell you, in Montgomery County, Maryland, there already have been 16,000 eviction proceedings started.
16,000?
16,000. They estimate there will be more than 30,000 up to 50,000 in Montgomery County. Early on, I predicted at least 40 to 50,000 evictions and foreclosures. These, and my estimates are short, unfortunately. Okay. This is not something I wanted to be right about. This is a human tragedy. This has real consequences. Okay. These are just evictions. These are not foreclosures. These are not auto repossessions. These are not people left in all the people that are going to be left in financial ruin. People out there in the real estate market right now is for whatever reason, just it's on fire. No matter where you go. I mean, the housing prices are just exploding, whether that's due to an artificially inflated real estate market or inflation itself, more dollars competing for fewer resources, which I think that could be the case. People are paying between $60 and $80 and $100, $200,000 over the asking price for homes.
Have you heard of this Blackwater? This company that's going around and buying up houses?
Yes, I heard about that, but let's hold on a second on that one. Right. That's a kind of a different thread to pull. Now, what's going to happen? The courts are starting to open up here again in the state of Maryland, and all over the country. Things are starting to move again, and the wheels are turning. What happens? I mean, what happens next to these people that were just hardworking people that all of a sudden found themselves caught up in a bureaucracy that told them one day erroneously, without any kind of thought process behind it or looking strategically down the road at the potential consequences, What is going to happen to these poor people?
I can't even imagine living out of their cars, having to move, going somewhere else. They're losing all the equity they put into that home up until when they lost their job.
Yeah.
And again, with the reports coming out, was this something that was really needed? Why did they really need to lose their jobs over a virus that was what it did affect people? We're not saying it's not real, but it was also survivable.
Like we were talking about there are all sorts of different consequences to what has gone down in this country over the past year and going on almost a year and a half, right?
Mhm.
We're very close to 18 months of 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right?
Oh,
Where I live, there are still restrictions and there are still some challenges, and not everything is 100% open yet.
mhm.
Hospitalizations are near zero. Nobody is getting sick. The vaccination rates are incredibly high.
Mhm.
Take it or leave it there. We'll just leave that alone for the moment. But they're very slow to re-engage. Now,
Mhm.
all bills are paid. All debts get paid. And unfortunately, you're going to see this is a human tragedy.
Mhm.
This is heartbreaking stuff to even have to talk about it, but nobody is really talking about the price this country is going to pay for what has happened.
There's a lot of speculation, and we don't want to get into that right now, but
No.
there is also a thought, and again, this is again my opinion, that if there was nefarious actions or things that were being done to purposely put a tailspin onto the economy to get a certain agenda forward, you know, that that's what comes to my mind, Alpha. And I'm not sure I can say anything else about it except that, this is not, the American dream. This is not the way it's supposed to be.
No,
And
this is a
that,
complete nightmare. This is a nightmare.
yep.
Okay. When you think of these kids, right? You've
Mhm.
got all of these kids whose parents were just hardworking people, lost their jobs. Now these people are going to be, unfortunately, homeless. There's the eventuality here is homelessness.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, for a lot of people, maybe not all 30,000 people that get evicted aren't going to be able to work something out. Okay. So there's hope there for some people. And let's hope that people can get bounced back on their feet. But let's put it to you this way. The median rent in Montgomery County, as just kind of a guess, on like a 2 or a 3 bedroom place is between $1,300 and $1,900 a month, up to $2,200 a month. You
Mhm.
multiply that, you do the math on that times 15 months that they weren't able to pay that, and they were able to stay there, and they didn't have the power turned off because the state shut that off, and you can't have the power turned off because of the pandemic. Those bills keep racking up. At some point, the power company is going to show up, throw the switch, shut the
Mhm.
power off. These kids that are just unwitting victims of this entire bureaucracy that did this, they're
Mhm.
going to be, how are these kids going to continue their education without a
Hmm.
house?
Because that's what,
Their families are going to be left in ruins.
right. Well, not
This
only that,
this
but the way the
sucks.
system's set up, schools are based on where you live and where you buy property. And based
Or
on
just where you live, right?
where you live. Yeah, exactly. Where you live, and then they really don't have much of a choice. And it's unfortunate. This story breaks my heart, and we'll have to keep an eye on this. I don't see this getting any better. These stimulus checks and elevated unemployment payments were all false bravado. Um, uh,
It's just a
sort of
gap
a way to
filler.
keep people. It was just it gave false hope instead of giving people the ability to, to get ready to get back to work, get them back to work, or look at the long term, not the short term. And decisions were made without really thinking about the consequences long term.
That's right.
On the economy. Why? Again, we'll come back to the original question.
Let's do a little quick math, right? I mean, your average family of 3 people, you've got let's call it $1,500 a month in rent, plus $150 for power in Maryland is a good guess, plus $500 for groceries, whatever, plus $500 more for incidentals, bare bones, and we're talking no frills lifestyle here. That's $2,650 a month. Okay. Now let's go times 16 months. That's $42,400 in living expenses. How does anybody make that up? That's not chump change. That's a lot of money. Now let's take that and let's extend that math out a little bit just show everybody the magnitude just from what we're seeing at a very high level of the disaster yet to come. Let's multiply that by, let's just call it, just to be on the conservative side, 20,000 evictions. 20,000 families in Montgomery County in this situation. Let's get a grand tally. That's $848 million in economic damage.
God.
That's just one county with a conservative estimate. One county.
The numbers are mind-boggling, and the other issue is, this is the first time I have heard anyone really talk about this, and that's between me and you, Alpha.
Well, this is a conversation that you and I would have,
right? And we would sit here and say something's got. This is one of the unintended consequences of shutting down an economy for a virus that, I got to be honest with you, didn't justify that. It wasn't Ebola. Just saying.
Well, just, the tragic thing here is this was like a 0.5% fatal or 0.02 or something, somewhere along those lines. Okay. It's nothing to laugh at. It's nothing to sneeze at. Right. It's no laughing matter whatsoever. People died here.
Right. Okay. And the people that lost loved ones have my utmost, sincerest condolences, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Absolutely. Can you just imagine if this thing were, like we said it last time, 1%, 5%, 10%, 15% fatal? Could you imagine a 15% mortality rate?
Oh, well, we were talking about this last show.
Absolutely, it's still an event. Yeah, it's still an evolutionary stopgap. It's an evolutionary bottleneck if something like that happens. Okay, so it's heartbreaking, and it really bothers me. This is the part of this, and this is why I was so anti-lockdown. And so let people choose what they want to do. And if you feel that you're afraid of this thing, you stay home, you take the precautions. That's on you. But if you've got to go out and work, they should never have closed the businesses as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. And this is America. You should have been free to make a choice. And if you were that worried about it, stay home, wait till the vaccine came out, protect yourself, wear a mask, do whatever, stand on your head, wear a hazmat suit. I don't care. You can't. Look at the damage that's been done.
Right. And the draconian, remember, and we were talking about this, the draconian, thou shalt do what a small group of people say.
Right.
Took away from our freedoms, our constitutional freedoms that we were granted by God. And this is what happens. So this is not over, everyone. I'm sorry to say.
Okay, let's expand it out just one step further. I don't hope we don't lose everybody here. That's one county, and a quite densely populated county, and quite an affluent county. Can you imagine counties like Baltimore County, not quite as affluent as Montgomery County. People don't have the resources there. How many evictions do you think? The renting population in Baltimore County is tremendous. I would say you would have to multiply that number at least by 3 in Baltimore County for evictions, or even more. Anne Arundel County, Prince George's County, Washington, D.C. is not an affluent place. The great preponderance of the folks that live there are, they're paycheck to paycheck type folks, and they work hard. They work hard, and they don't have the cash reserves to sustain themselves through something like this. So I have a big soft spot for these people they're going to go through a lot of pain, and this is going to be bad. Along with this is going to come an escalation in the crime rate, drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, violence. It's all bad. So
depression,
it's that's something else that nobody's really talking about. So anyhow, that's real cheerful stuff, right?
Well, again, we'll keep an eye on this. We hope that we're overestimating and that we're being over gloomy, but you can't argue with the numbers, and you can't argue with what's going on right now. You have to keep your eyes open and be prepared to have your head on a swivel, as we say.
Right, have your head on a swivel, and if this has taught anybody anything, it's if you've got money, stash it away. If you've got resources, stash them away. Be prepared for an event like this, because if it happened once, it can happen again. History tends to repeat itself, right?
Yep.
So anyhow, enough of that stuff. I mean, it's just mind-blowing.
Yep.
So anyhow, look, we talk a lot about a lot of things that are going on, and there are a lot of things happening, like this story about the evictions and really what's going on the man on the street level of impact that this virus has had is frightening stuff. And we've talked a lot about, election stuff that's going on, and that's still happening, and nobody is paying attention to it because everybody is scope locked on what's going on in Geneva right now with Putin and Biden, and there's a border thing going on. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Okay,
that was, by the way, Biden was a disgrace. The way he acted, the way he talked, the way he spoke and represented this country. I'm mortified by what he did.
We're gonna do an entire program on that next time, because I'm gonna let that settle, and I'm gonna let that whole thing play out. I want to let that play out so we get to absorb all of it.
Sure.
Just a lot
I want the video. Yep. We'll bring some video. We'll bring the oh my gosh moments and some of the other things that will come out of it as the analysis occurs. But I was keeping an eye on it right now, and I'm mortified. Alpha is just
Well, right. It's bad. And I just threw something in here, Bravo, that we didn't talk about. I had it uploaded, and I don't know what happened to it. But there's something I really want to talk about, and it's going to be a little surprise to you, but we're going to kind of roll with it. We look a lot at the role models out there that have led everybody and have been really true leaders through the last 14, 16 months, really fearless people going against the grain, and as it turns out, they were more right than wrong about how they have conducted themselves and been true leaders, and people to look to them for strength and to say, don't be afraid, we're going to push through this thing. And they showed really incredible quality. And that one of those people and our role model and our idol talks about him all the time. And that would be Ron DeSantis. We've talked about Ron a number of times. His leadership on the virus and the COVID and the response, it was pretty much, with a few exceptions, pretty flawless all the way through. He saw his state through this thing, and they came out stronger on the other side because of his leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ron DeSantis is a real up and coming leader.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. He's a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Ron DeSantis strikes again. He's sending his police, his state police, to Arizona and Texas
Mm-hmm.
because his state is seeing the consequences of the 180,000 people that have rushed across the border in the last 6 months. These people, we keep saying it over and over and over again. This is not, we're not xenophobic at all. But a lot of the people that are coming across the border illegally are not coming to America to pick avocados in California.
Nope.
There's a large criminal element that's coming across, and the people they're going to Florida, they're going to all the Gulf states, they're spreading, the illegal immigrants are spreading, crime is spreading with them, human trafficking is coming with them, and yeah, anybody who thinks that what I just said is racist, they're out of their mind. Let's talk a little bit about some of the gangs that are bringing people across and children that are being ferried across the border by the cartels, by MS-13, etc. They're landing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron DeSantis is sending his people on a mutual aid basis to Arizona and Texas to bolster their efforts to protect our border because the Biden administration has abdicated all responsibility and has just opened the borders. That's leadership.
DeSantis is leadership. Biden is just pitiful. It's just pitiful. There's nothing else I can say. And everything that is going on right now is almost like trying to take a shoe and throw it into the gears of a machine to sabotage the entire process. And that's all I can say.
Well, listen, I've maintained this all along. If you want to open the borders and you don't want to have any immigration laws, change the law. But for right now, coming across the border without checking in and going through the process is illegal immigration. It is illegal. It is not. It is against the laws of this country. If you want it not to be, you have a Democratic majority in Congress.
Change the law.
Change the law.
Yep.
I won't agree with it, but that's the way it has to be done.
Correct.
Not by selective enforcement of the laws and unequal application of the scales of justice. That is the quickest path to a banana republic, which we are rapidly heading for, I'm afraid. So sorry I slipped that one in for you. Ron DeSantis is absolutely the poster child for leadership.
Anytime we get to give kudos to Mr. DeSantis, I am all for it. Let me just tell you.
I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Ron DeSantis. So, he's got major league huevos, man. He's got stones, and I really appreciate it.
So that also comes down to my philosophy on leadership, Alpha. So a leader, what does a good leader do? A good leader allows the ability for the people that they're in charge of, or they work with them. I don't really say in charge, but give them the chance to grow, chance to contribute positively, and a chance to be appreciated. I look at Ron DeSantis. I look at Kristi Noem. I look at Donald Trump. All of them leaders in their own right, but they appreciated the people they were working for. And you compare that to the other side. Yeah, just compare it to the other side. And I don't feel appreciated, nor do I feel wanted when you have Biden, Harris, Cuomo, Whitmer.
Well,
I'll keep going. I mean, it's just they're doing their own thing, and they're stepping on all of us in the process, and it really makes me upset.
Well, I feel very strongly that political leadership is about protecting an individual's right, God-given rights, okay? and not imposing the will of the government or bureaucracy upon people. Okay, that's not leadership. That's a dictatorship.
Yep.
Preserving the rights and the limited powers of government, limiting the powers of government to let people choose and decide and to equally apply the laws as they are written across the board. That's leadership in a political basis. What you have now on the federal level is a shambles. It's a shambles. So enough about Ron DeSantis leadership. He gets, 5 stars. Would vote for him if I could. I really dig the guy. He's awesome. So anyhow, moving along a little bit, something that not a lot of people are really, really talking about. Everybody's missing the boat on this as well. Is what's going on in Maricopa County. 13 other states have just recently visited Maricopa County: Washington State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, South Carolina, and there's a couple more. I might be missing a few details here. They are eyeing the model of what's going on in Maricopa County, and they are starting to make a lot of noise about starting a very similar audit in their states.
Yep.
Because something was terribly wrong in the last election.
That's correct. We said that when we were watching the election, we had a whole show talking about the election results, and we gave our impressions and our thoughts and what we could find, and we asked, why did they stop counting in the middle of the night? Why were all these irregularities occurring? And how is it that when you have a huge lead in the beginning of the night, in the late night, and then all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and Biden's now president? And I just shook my head and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I was telling everyone, I told you, Alpha, I was up all night watching the results, and that's when I saw these numbers all of a sudden just get injected. They took a hypodermic needle and they injected all these ballots into the election.
Totally possible that's what happened. But that's the purpose of an audit, is to find out exactly what happened. Now, what I find very curious about this whole process that Arizona is going through, how many times have the Democrats taken them to court to stop them?
And
seven times. Well, yes. And the Attorney General is now stepping and saying, I am hiring 87 new attorneys to examine these audits. And
you can't do SWAT, buddy. He's an attorney. I'm not. And he's saying he's going to send all these people down and get the hell out of here. Really?
Well,
that guy's embarrassing.
Well,
and he was supposed to be nominated for the court.
Well, the Attorney General of Arizona was like, yeah, this is a states' rights issue. You have no jurisdiction over this. Article 4 of the Constitution provides, states' elections, And if you come here and you start screwing around, number one, we're going to arrest your people. Number two, we're going to sue you. Good for you, Maricopa County. Good for you, Arizona. Stand up for yourself. We said it in the last program. Every time we talk about election audits, it is everybody's right in this country to make sure that the election, whether you like the result or you don't like the result, let the chips fall where they may. If this audit proves that Joe Biden won beyond a shadow of a doubt, okay, great. Well,
wonderful.
I'm not happy. Wonderful. I'm not happy about it, but good. Good, because that is preservation of what our process is supposed to be and the democratic process of electing officials in this country.
And for all those people out there that want to say, well, the election's over with, move on, I'm not moving on. We have to get to the bottom of what happened on November 3rd. And that is...
I got to be honest with you. I hope nothing happened. I don't suspect that's the case. But I truly hope that nothing was awry.
Yeah. I'll also tell you that with what's going on in with Mike Lindell and his findings and his reporting already, and I've watched all of them, all of his documentaries. There are some amazing things. And Sidney Powell, by the way, she's been rather quiet lately. She just came out today and talked about how she was there and witnessed all of these PCAPs. She was there when it was happening. Oh boy.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, she's gotten struck down a bunch of times, but I got news for you. These people aren't going to quit, and I hope they don't quit. And like I said before, I'll say it one more time for everybody. If Joe Biden honestly won this election based upon the audit results, okay, great. Good. That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to see how it turns out. I'm afraid that there were some irregularities that I can't explain.
And I'm right there with you, my friend. Agree 1,000%. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic I want to share. Another topic you're not going to see discussed very much, except with good old Project Veritas and good old James O'Keefe strikes again. Let's share with you what happened with this reporter who is now currently suspended, I believe terminated.
No. She got canned.
No, she was suspended first and then terminated. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's play everyone go to Project Veritas, go there, watch the video. It's amazing. I watched it. We're going to play a little bit for you. Stand by.
Fox came at my throat for standing up against censorship.
Why do you think they did that?
From the inside, yes, there's a narrative. If you don't sense what that narrative is and go with it, there will be grave consequences for you. And this story with Dr. Verone proves that.
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. We have used it. I mean, we know that it's a drug that has been politicized up to the wazoo. We've used it. We use it with good success.
That was a story, by the way, that Susan and Lee sent me there to cover the COVID treatments at that hospital. I just wasn't supposed to ask that question.
You need to cease and desist posting about hydroxychloroquine. In my opinion, you failed as a reporter to not know more if you were going to post about hydroxychloroquine, that you didn't look it up and look at the latest posts, the latest research about it. Read the articles.
I have.
There was a major study in the New England Journal of Medicine.
That study makes him more newsworthy. I was aware of that study, which is why I posted him.
What study?
Because
study?
I referenced it in my story about Dr. Emanuel.
Well, I found a whole bunch of interesting things in this little story.
Yes, so that's Ivory. That's Ivory Hecker.
Right. Ivory Hecker is the reporter. She was being censored right from her boss, the producer, by the name of Susan Schiller. Well, that's a good last name. Basically, she was, as you could hear in the video, she was telling the reporter to knock it off and stop with hydroxychloroquine. And the immediate article that she quotes is the New England Journal of Medicine, which is now when you have an argument and you automatically go to an authoritative source. Now, Dan Bongino a couple of days ago talked about the 5 justifications how Democrats, liberals, people that don't really have much facts to go on try to undermine your argument by bringing up such as an authoritative source like, quote, the New England Journal of Medicine. The Lancet, we were talking about that too, right, Alpha? Where the Lancet was talking about hydroxychloroquine and how dangerous it was. We talked about this last show. Right. It was all completely debunked. Hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin or Zithromax works.
Yes, it does.
And this reporter was talking to a physician, boots on the ground, people that were treating on the front lines. And at a certain point, if you can avoid getting someone on a respirator and putting a tube down their throat, that's a lot better than putting on a tube down their throat and they'll never get off the respirator. So This check out Project Veritas. Ivory Heckler is an amazing, brave soul, and she lost her job, but she doesn't want to work at a place where she can't speak freely. And this is another one of those. The bubble is going to burst soon because people are sick and tired of having their rights trampled on and not getting the full story, but instead getting a narrative. And I'm right there.
Well, there's a little bit more to Ivory's story, okay? And you're right. This was only a small piece of the grief that she caught. She recorded these people over a long period of time doing the same thing to her. Now, she was in the middle of a news report about air conditioning and the temperature, the weather, and she all of a sudden just breaks out with, hey, just want to let you know that my producers are censoring me. You're not getting all the stories. They're telling me what to tell you. They're setting a narrative. Back to the weather. I mean, she just was as smooth as could be when she did it. And it was like 5 minutes after that, they called her on the phone. You're going to need to come to the station and clean out your office, or don't come to the station like ever again. You're suspended, right?
Isn't that sad? Well, just think about that for 1 second. That's a knee-jerk, authoritative, draconian reaction to trying to control a narrative and not allowing someone to do their job. Again, an example of poor leadership.
Well,
also,
it's worse than that. It's really worse than that. Now, journalism in this country, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much dead. Okay. It was the Fourth Estate. It was their job to dig for the truth and to put the truth out, to monitor those in leadership positions as a public service, as a duty to inform the populace as to what the government or their elected officials or bureaucrats were really up to, and to report the facts as they were around the world, not to set a narrative, to take sides, to spin, to push one narrative over another, and to create falsehoods. Now, what we have in this country, unfortunately, and it really hurts, and this is not new, okay? The New York Times has the old gray lady. They have a long history of narrative setting, covering up, and playing favorites. They covered up the frickin' Holocaust. Okay? They knew full well what the Nazis were doing in Germany. They covered up the Holocaust, and this has been going on for decades and decades and decades. This is nothing new. Now, with the advent of social media, with the advent of alternative news sources, with the downfall of network news and network television, most people are getting their news from alternative sources. They're listening to podcasts like this one. They're listening to, God forbid, there was a guy, InfoWars. I mean, everybody's heard of him. If I mention the guy's name, we'll get canceled off of YouTube permanently. Okay. They've unpersoned these people that are putting out the stories. They've tried. Now more people get their news from podcasts, alternative news sources, things that were out of the mainstream, like, let's see, the Epoch Times.
One of our main sources.
One of our main sources. I find they're reporting straight down the middle and factual on everything, and I check a number of different sources before we pull anything from anywhere. We check it. Now, are we fact checkers? No. We take a reasonable test. Is this reasonable? Let's look at this side of the issue. Let's see what these people are reporting. Let's sort the truth. Now, another problem that we have in this society, in this day and age, is most people don't read any deeper than the headline.
That's correct.
So a headline tells 99% of the story, and when you start reading, it's much different than the headline oftentimes. So we've lost our ability to critically think in this society, and it's becoming a real problem. And it's been leveraged by the narrative setters and the propagandists from the mainstream media.
And I think you just summed up the problem.
That.
I think you just summed up the problem with their press. Ding. Okay.
Ding. And that's all I have to say about that.
Mm-hmm. But again, we tell everyone out there, these are conversations that Alpha and I would have over the phone. We're sharing the conversations with you. We're giving you some sources. We encourage you to go out and find your other sources and let us know what you think. info@signal50.com. Anyway,
go read a book. Go read a book. Go read a book.
Oh, by the way, talking about books, there's 2 books that are out. One, of course, is Unfreedom of the Press by Mark Levin. Yep. That book is well worth your time to read over. He goes through in explicit detail about what's going on with that. Second one, Alex Marlowe from Breitbart News came out with a book, and I'm in the middle of right now, and I'll be happy to go over it with you when I get done with it. And it's Shattered, the broken press, and I'll give you some more details once I finish it. But it's a great read, and I'm enjoying it very much. So things to think about.
Absolutely, there's some great stuff out there, and everybody just needs to drop the television set and go read a book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Find out for yourselves. One last story I want to talk about. And again, it kind of goes along with our theme for this evening. When's the bubble going to burst? And we're talking about a story from Revolver. This is revolver.news. And this is a huge story. They ask a very interesting question that I want to share with everyone. And the headline reads is this: unindicted co-conspirators in the 1/6 cases or January 6 cases raise disturbing questions of federal foreknowledge. Now, this is an interesting. These are the questions that the article raises, and they go through, and they've done investigative reporting. Which again, you were talking about this, Alpha, just before. The press is dead. Well, Revolver is starting to bring it back up again.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Who in the hell heard a Revolver before just now?
Well, I know of it, but I don't think I'm not sure.
Right.
It's not mainstream.
Look, we're gonna have a number of people. We're gonna have a couple of thousand people that might listen to this program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or more, hopefully. Now, Revolver's not a mainstream news source, is it?
No. In fact, if you look at the URL, it's revolver.news, which populist press. Again, these are all sources that are off the beaten path.
Right. But when we look at articles and we read them, we don't necessarily pick them out because they say what we want them to say. We look at the methodology of the reporting.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the content and the quality of that content. There's some good stuff out there. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just think that's important to add. Yep.
We talked about critical appraisal of a particular topic.
That's right.
Doesn't make sense. What's in there? What were the methods to get to where they're going? Again, we're just sharing things with you that we would talk about, but things that I have been doing since, well, Alpha, since I was a kid, we were always talking about current events. So it's kind of like one of those things. Anyway, so we talk about Revolver News, and they're willing to address the matter directly in the following 3 questions. And in this article, they go through all the 3 questions. We're not going to take the time to go through it, but I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention so we can think about it, and we'll come back next show and we'll tell a little bit more insight as this story starts to evolve. In the year leading up to the 1/6 and during 1/6 itself, to what extent were the 3 primary militia groups, open parentheses, parenthetical, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and the 3 percenters, close parenthetical, that the FBI, DOJ, Pentagon, and Network News have labeled most responsible for planning and executing a capital attack on 1/6 infiltrated by agencies of the federal government or informants of said agencies. So what did the government do to get into these, why were they there?
Hold on 1 second. I had a discussion about this very topic today.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be 100% clear.
Mm-hmm.
100% clear. Bravo and myself do not advocate or stand behind what anybody did on 1/6 to enter that building. Period. Big mistake.
Mm-hmm.
We don't act like that.
No.
That being said, that is an important question.
Mm-hmm.
The first point they make: what did the government know? When did they know it? And what were they doing about it if they thought this was a problem?
Mm-hmm.
And another point that they do miss in this article is what other groups were there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't
That-
know. Antifa and BLM and no, I don't know.
Oh.
BLM Inc.
Yeah.
That's what I call
Yeah.
BLM.
What are we missing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving along.
Question number two. Exactly how many federal undercover agents or confidential informants were present at the Capitol or in the Capitol during the infamous, quote, siege, unquote, and what roles did they play, open parenthetical, merely passive informants or active investigators, close parenthetical. So that was
Instigators.
Finally, this is the last question. Finally, of all the unindicted co-conspirators referenced in the changing documents of those indicted for crimes on 1/6, how many worked as a confidential informant or as an undercover operative for the federal government, FBI, Army counterintelligence, etc.? Those are some really good questions.
Those are very, very good questions. I might add a little bit to that.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the article, before we get in the article, they go through these points, and they go ahead and they look at how it goes back to the original question, which is the headline. What did the government know? When they know it, and what were they going to do about it? Or was this a setup? That's a big question. Was this a setup? And that's
now,
you know,
back to the top of the hour here. When we started the program, we were discussing, at a very high level, the G7 that's going on right now in Geneva. Okay. Today, you had a world leader, Vladimir Putin, not a good guy. He's a stone cold thug, bully, murdering communist piece of crap. He's a horrible human being. But he made I find it very hard to believe that I find myself going, when Putin said something about this very thing, I was like, holy crap, this guy's got a hell of a good point. He's like, well, you want to call me a monster, huh? You think I'm a dictator? You had people at the Capitol building exercising their constitutional right to political differences under your system, and you've got these people locked away forever.
Yeah.
And you think I'm the monster, huh? I'm not the monster.
And Biden stumbled on himself.
Of course. That's another topic for another time, but what the government has done in reaction to this is nearly as bad as the act itself, right?
Correct. Yep.
Ashley Babbitt, she got shot and she died. Should she have been in there doing what she was doing? Probably no. Did she deserve to get shot for what she was doing? Probably no. It's a terrible thing.
But to not even know who the officer was until just recently, and they were trying to put it under the rug, that's unacceptable in my book. Anyway,
apparently there's two different scales of justice in this country, huh?
Not supposed to be.
That. No, not supposed to be. But we live in an upside down world. The dipsy dude flipperoo, huh?
Yep, that's from our friend Dan Bongino.
Yes,
No.
it is. That's a Bonginoism.
We more admire him. I don't think he knows who we are. But anyway, that's okay. He's
Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, look, everybody, we enjoyed bringing you this content tonight. We really did. You can expect more from us.
Better too.
I think so. Yes, much better.
Yeah.
We're getting there. I mean, look, it's really interesting to do this, right? Because you learn a lot about, number one, how to do this, and you learn that when you listen to a podcast that you particularly enjoy, and going a little bit off topic, just having a conversation with the audience here, when you go a little bit off topic here, and what you want to discover when you do something like this, when you put together a podcast and you do enjoy podcasts in this kind of medium, you don't understand just how much work people put into these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to learn something completely new and different. So I'm enjoying myself, and we hope that the audience is enjoying themselves. And we're making some friends along the way, and we have some exciting things that we'd really like to do. And just remember, we're amateurs at this, right? We're not professional marketers. We're not professional broadcasters. We're not professional producers. We're just two idiots with a couple of microphones, headsets, and computers. Think of how far we've all come in the last 10 years, where two guys can put a broadcast out to the world. It's really amazing. It's really cool.
Right. Now, one other thing, and I echo everything that you're saying, Alpha. We also understand the importance of ensuring that we bring you information that's relevant, that's accurate. And yes, it is our opinion also. However, we want to get it right. We earn your trust and earn your time for us to be able to tell you all these things. And I'm greatly appreciative of the ability and the honor to be able to sit and talk with my friend from childhood, my best friend, and get this information out here because no one else is talking about it. So we look at this as a service to us, right. And being American, it's our responsibility. It's our obligation.
That's right.
We're not backing down.
A right not exercised is a right lost.
Correct.
And on that note, everybody, hey, listen, it's hump day. It's almost the end of hump day. We're on the downturn to Friday Eve, which is tomorrow. I've had a particularly challenging work week so far. I'm so tired I can't even speak anymore. So, hey, listen, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. I want to give a shout out to our affiliate, POF USA, POF-USA.com, makers of the finest AR-15 style rifles in the United States. However, I had a chance to look at something the other night that really impressed me, and we're trying to see if we can do a little something with that company as well. We'll talk more about that a little later on. For those of you that live in the deep blue states, particularly New York, you can't touch any of this stuff because, King Cuomo says you can't do that. So we wish you all the best there. POF USA and Mark's Guns LLC, marksgunsllc.com. Go see Mark for all of your shooting, hunting, and outdoor needs. He'll order anything you want. He charges a very small markup, and he can have it delivered to your FFL for transfer. So on that note, we'd like to just make sure that you catch our podcast on any of your regular podcast venues that you use: Apple, Google, Podbean, Spotify, iHeart, etc. Yep. Go to our website, signal50.com. It'll give you where to find all of our content. Make sure to catch us over on Rumble so you can catch the video overlays. There's going to be some more content coming that Rumble will be a little more handy for. I think Parler is dead. I'm having problems with Parler. I'm just not enjoying that whole thing anymore. But on that note, that's it. No, something's not right.
Also, if you could pass this around, get it to your friends, put it on your social media. We don't use Twitter or Facebook. That's my personal choice, and I know it's Alpha's personal choice because I don't like to give them free content and then they take advantage of it by throttling it.
I got unpersoned on Twitter, so I'm all done there. So
anyway, please give us a rumble when you're watching us there, or give us a like, or if you could give us a review on the podcast wherever you pick up the podcast, and let us know what we can do to make it better. We, again, very appreciative of you spending some time with us, and we will catch you on the next show coming up.
That's right. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we'd like to send out a special thanks to all our soldiers, sailors, and airmen that protect us 24/7, 365. No matter where you are on the planet, be careful out there. It's becoming a dangerous world. And we'd like to thank our police, firefighters, and EMS personnel that work with us, and we interact with them on a daily basis here domestically. We'd like to thank you for all you do, and thank you very much. Your only job is to go home safe at night to your families, and we really appreciate everything that you do for us. And on that note, bravo, cue the music. Everybody, have a great rest of your week, and enjoy the weekend. We'll see you on Sunday night.
Everyone.